And I'll just slide over here. How are y'all? Good. How about you? Good. How you doing? Yes, sir. Finally. That's the way you have to smile on your face. Right.
My sister-in-law elementary school trip. Perfect. Yeah, I got Twilight. Does that work? I typed all those things.
It
is 5:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming out. This is our last lecture in our spring 2024 series. So thanks for coming. Thanks for all of you who have been faithful attendees this year. We really appreciate it. We are already planning for the fall series. We have 2 confirmed speakers. The Tar Heel Traveler, Scott Mason, will be here in the fall, and our very own Tommy Jarrett. And so more information will be coming out about that lecture series later in the summer. I am pleased to introduce Jennifer Tyndall. She's the department chair for information systems. There may be another word in there, but she can tell you all about herself and our 2 wonderful speakers. But once again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all so much for coming this evening. My name is Jennifer Tyndall, and as Emily said, I am the department chair of the Information Systems Department, and you are in for a real treat tonight. Cynthia Kaye is the AI and Emerging Technologies instructor right here at Wayne Community College. In her 5 years as an instructor, she has taught a variety of computer science related topics, including programming, game design, and most recently, artificial intelligence. One of her personal missions is for her students to understand and to use AI ethically. She is a graduate of Wayne Community College and is currently attending East Carolina University, so go Pirates. Connor Beveridge is our AI instructor here at Wayne Community College. He is a graduate of Georgia Tech with both his bachelor's and master's degrees. He worked briefly in the medical device industry, and then he worked in cognitive science research, where he co-produced publications that have seen exposure in news articles, including MSN. After receiving his master's in computer science, Connor now focuses on bringing artificial intelligence to community college systems, with one of the nation's first associate degrees in artificial intelligence being right here at Wayne Community College. So we're very proud of that. So thank you to Cynthia and Connor, and I hope you all enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. So we're really excited to talk to you all tonight about AI's growing influence over the modern world. And this influence is it's really influencing every aspect of business, similar to the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century. It's really a grand undertaking and has profound benefits. But will we employ it to make our lives better or worse? So visions of the future of AI invoke scenes of sentient humanoid robots that coexist with us in our workplaces and our homes that eventually rise up and overtake us. Um, but it's really a mistake to think that the culmination of AI will be machines that really act like us. And sentient robots are really more of a fantasy, or at least massively distant off in the future. It's going to exist more so in less of a robotic form and more out of sight in our platforms, our networks, our social media platforms, Netflix, our transportation apps, all over the internet and all over our phone applications. So it's important to start off understanding what AI really is and how it differs from this futuristic vision of sentient robots. So AI is really, as it currently stands, each AI is independently focused on individual tasks. And this kind of futuristic vision, that's more something similar to AGI. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, and this refers to AIs that think not in these individual tasks, not good at just playing chess or checkers or classifying dogs, but can learn to do anything essentially that a child could eventually grow up to do. It could play chess or checkers or learn to drive a car, do math, create art and music, and pretty much anything. And this is really, really distant in the future. I think many companies like OpenAI and DeepMind, their main goal is to produce AGI. And many in the field think that, not many, but some in the field think that AGI might emerge in the next few decades. But personally, I don't think that any of us here will see it in our lifetimes, although maybe those being born today, they might see it. So AI is broken up into many different individual cognitive tasks, computer vision, game playing, image classification, for instance. And I say cognitive because these AI think in a way similar that we do, although in a much more narrow sense. So um, this cognitive aspect differentiates um, AI programs from traditional computer programs. Traditional computer programs, we know all the exact steps that we are going to take to reach our goal, and we program the computer, we program those steps explicitly into our computer to execute those tasks. With AI, instead of programming these steps directly, we're essentially programming the computer to think out the solution for itself, perform some kind of cognition to figure out the solution to the task. For instance, we have like a checkers bot AI. We'll program it to imagine all the possibilities on the current move, and based on the result of that move, it will imagine all the possibilities for each of those results that the opponent might take, and so on, creating a vast game tree of all the different possibilities for each of the exponentially growing possible moves. And based on that game tree, it calculates the optimal move for the current state of the board. And this is really similar to how people would think about playing one of these games, given they don't have some kind of prior strategy for playing the game. So AI is not an industry really, and it's not a single product. It's an enabler of many industries and facets of our lives: scientific discovery, medicine, transportation, manufacturing, defense, art, and so much more. The outcome of this technology is going to be an alteration of our identities and our experiences of the world, not seen since the dawn of the modern age. And this will likely include alterations of our societal culture, our societal norms, our behaviors, and even our interpersonal relationships. In medicine, AI is taking us to realms of understanding that we haven't really seen before. So, a big emerging medical issue is antibiotic resistant microbes, and as we are really overusing antibiotics and they're becoming really widespread, bacteria and other microbes are developing resistance to the antibiotics that we have, and it's really hard to produce new antibiotics. And so this can really lead to a form of like a super bug that we're not able to treat. So it's really, really crucial in the near future that we either limit our use of antibiotics somehow, or we are able to create new antibiotics. And researchers at MIT, they actually built an AI model um, to learn the properties of antibiotic molecules. And it ended up identifying new relationships between the attributes of the molecules and their antibiotic properties that previously eluded human conceptualization. And it did discover a novel antibiotic halicin that was able to um, kill antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And this AI model screened more than 100 chemical compounds. And this is just kind of an overview of how it works a little bit. So it's a neural network, a deep neural network that's being trained, and the researchers will pass in training data, which are the current compounds and their antibiotic properties. And through that training process, the network will learn to associate certain attributes in really complex ways to predict the antibiotic potential. Some molecules will be predicted to have really powerful antibiotic properties, and that's what it indeed discovered. And it's actually, well, without this neural network machine learning training, this discovery of antibiotic molecules would be really extremely difficult, take many painstaking years of a lot of trial and error work, and essentially is just not possible at this point without AI. The massive amount of molecules that would need to be checked through trial and error. And the relationships between the molecule's properties and the antibiotic potential um, that not only eluded our understanding, but it's pretty much too complex for our human minds to understand currently. Due to the really deep complexity of these neural networks, there's really abstract mathematical operations that are being learned through this training that enable the prediction of new antibiotic molecules through passing through this type of neural network. In other areas of healthcare, AI is being applied with similarly fantastic results. Cancer is being detected much earlier and more precisely. Diseases are being detected much earlier on through analysis of people's medical histories and their genetic codes. So there's a lot going on. Another striking example of AI enabling this type of scientific discovery is the development of something called AlphaFold. So one of the biggest problems in biology in the past many years has been the protein folding problem. And that's how in our bodies we have all these biological proteins that make up our bodies. And it's really crucial to know how new proteins, which are sequences of amino acids, kind of fold over each other and form the structure of the protein itself. And so AlphaFold was developed and actually solved this problem recently, this protein folding problem, and it's able to predict the structure of novel proteins. So it's able to predict this three-dimensional structure from just the sequence of amino acids that make up the protein. And this is really crucial, again, for things like drug discovery and understanding diseases, and really through a wide variety of areas of biological research. And it could take one PhD several years of really painstaking work to discover the structure of just one protein. And AlphaFold has actually been able to discover the structure of over 200 million proteins. And so it's really drastically, really having a really profound effect on biological research and things like drug discovery. So it's really easy for us to fear AI and fear ways that AI might end us, but there's really so many more ways in which it could save us. Just for instance, self-driving cars could greatly reduce the amount of automobile accidents. Diseases, again, can be identified much earlier and more precisely. Things like mass casualty events, volcanoes and tsunamis and earthquakes can be detected very well in advance. Even things like, foresee things like asteroid prediction, and farming could be transformed, and climate change can be mitigated. Um, oh yeah, so there are of course risks, and these risks needs to be managed concurrently with the advancement of this field, and we can't leave this development and management of AI up to any one person or government or organization. And it's also really important that single AI models don't come to dominate certain domains. This risks producing like a sort of technological monoculture in which the biases and weaknesses of certain models become proliferated, and as they come to dominate certain areas of science and technology, and that would produce a sort of technological oligarchy in a way. So it's something to be pretty concerned about. AI's potential functions in relation to defense are proving pretty indispensable, with countries that are failing to integrate AI into their military capacities are really falling to a really heavy disadvantage. Um, for instance, already AI-powered fighter pilots are already um, showing a substantial ability to dominate human fighter pilots in simulations, and they're able to do maneuvers that humans are just not capable of doing. Um, so, I mean, no major country can afford to ignore these security dimensions in relation to AI, and halting progress on this technology is not going to make the world a safer place. It'll make the world a more balanced place, as some countries are just not, if everybody just decided to halt AI, some countries would just ignore that. It wouldn't happen. But we do need to recognize the needs of rivals to cooperate and setting limits on the development and the use of overly destructive AIs and unpredictable AIs as well. And so we also have to consider the proliferation of disinformation and psychological warfare that could produce new vulnerabilities if a nation, through deepfakes, if a nation's leader is his or her image is manipulated to foment discord or issue misleading directives, will the people and the officials recognize that in time? So countries need to really invest in cooperate in attempting to limit this risk, and invest in fail-safes to insulate themselves from the worst case physical and digital scenarios. And one way to do that is to sever network connections. So that could really become an ultimate form of defense, is just to to remove our systems entirely from whatever internet or whatever network we're set up with. So there's lots of myths related to AI. AI is definitely not an all-knowing superintelligence. I'm not sure if that's a complete fantasy, most likely. AI is not going to replace all our jobs, although that is a really big concern. People will most likely adapt to this new technological landscape and apply these new tools and new emerging ways of production. It will most likely remove the need for us to do repetitive, low-level, meaningless tasks and drudgery, allowing us less strenuous labor and allowing us to decrease the number of hours we need to work every week. A lot of artists currently are really concerned about AI taking over all their jobs, and it's kind of a concern, but photography was also a really big concern to artists in the past, and that really led to a whole new class of art and employment. One of the greatest predictors of human happiness is actually meaningful work, and as AI transforms the nature of our work, many people, this may jeopardize their sense of fulfillment and identity even, and financial security. So many people, though, will find themselves freed from drudgery, and they will be able to now find fulfillment in their work. But many people may actually find that their skills are no longer necessary at all. So societies do need to find ways to assist the displaced in finding new means of income and new means of fulfillment. The industrialization of agriculture actually led to mass migration to cities, and we may see a similar migration, not physically, but more of a digital migration in the future. Some may feel that they're losing their autonomy, and they may fear AI in many ways, and they'll try to maybe disconnect themselves from social media, from pretty much any AI they can. And while AI becomes more prolific, this may become a really very lonely journey, and AI it might even prove inescapable. So AI is not going to take away all our jobs, but we will start to find our jobs being more closely integrated with AI. We won't have AI doctors anytime soon, but we will have doctors that are heavily integrated and dependent AI. The AI will take notes for them and analyze their discussions with their patients and enter information in their electronic health records, which those administrative types of tasks greatly slow down the healthcare process. So that could greatly improve health outcomes through speeding up. And the AI will, help them provide them with insights into potential treatments and potential diagnoses. So the doctors will work very closely with AI at some point. But that integration with AI is going to require us to upskill people and provide new types of education for people to learn how to integrate this into their work. So AI is not conscious. It doesn't have emotions or experiences. It makes all of its decisions based on algorithms. It makes mistakes, especially in complex situations. So it's important that we have some kind of human oversight and intervention there. It's going to lead us into new realms that we can't reach by our own reason, and its achievements promise to make AI the age of abundance, and we should really celebrate that potential. Foregoing AI is just not going to be feasible, and leaders are going to have to confront the implications of this technology. And in order for us to really make sure that it improves our lives, we need to develop AI systems that focus on human preferences and well-being and our values. Thank you.
Move this over here. Thank you for that, Connor. So I'm very excited to be here because talking about the ethical implications of AI is one of my favorite things about this program. I created the computer ethics class that we teach, and I was very excited to implement that because it is something I hold very near and dear to my heart, the ethical implication of any technology really, but particularly AI because it is so new and here and powerful. And I say AI is new, but the history of AI is another thing that I'm very interested in. How many of you guys have heard the term neural network before? Just raise your hand if like you've heard the word neural network. It seems like it's this real new thing. The first, what we would call a neural network, was actually created in 1951 by a man named Marvin Minsky. It had the long name of Stochastic Neural Analog Reinforcement Calculator, or SNARC for short. So this was a machine made out of vacuum tubes and big components, but it did the same thing that a modern day neural network does, obviously just on a much larger scale. So if AI has been around since the 50s, how come we're talking about it now like it's such this new modern thing? And the reason is because now it is far more powerful than that machine was back in the 50s. And AI as we know it today is an incredibly modern, I'd say probably in the past 10 to 20 years, it has exponentially increased in its power. I forgot I had this. So there are many different ways that AI can be used, and one of the most popular things, most interesting ways, is through image generation. So there's a lot of different image generator programs out there. One is called Midjourney, as the slide says. There's another called DALL-E. There's another one called Stable Diffusion. And what these programs do is you enter in a prompt. You type in some sort of sentence, and it will generate an image for you. The more detailed your prompt is, the more realistic and better the picture will be. So of these two pictures, which one do you think is real, and which one do you think is AI generated? Raise your hand if you think the orange one is AI generated. Raise your hand if you think the blue one is AI generated. The orange one is AI generated. It is incredibly convincing. It took me a while when I saw the slide, when we were creating it, to figure out which one was which. But it's kind of hard to see from a distance, but if you look really closely, the straps on this don't quite line up, and like this doesn't make sense right here, and the leaves look kind of iffy. It takes a fine eye to really, really tell the differences. There are whole online communities dedicated to creating funny images made with these types of image generators. I've seen things like Gandalf arm wrestling Rocky Balboa, just like the most ridiculous thing you can think of, you can put into one of these and it will generate that image for you with sometimes like startlingly realistic results. And because of that, you can easily imagine the damage that this could do. I have seen so many fake, and I know they're fake images of President Trump or President Biden or, any nation's leader doing things that they obviously aren't doing. But to someone who doesn't know that they're AI generated and just quickly scans over it, they see it in their Facebook feed or whatever, they might think, oh, he was actually caught doing that? And this makes spreading misinformation and fake news so much easier. Another problem that AI-generated images can have is in the more creative side of art. So this is an image from a comic book cover, and it looks very impressive. But the more you look at it, the less it makes sense. If you take a look here, this like ribbon thing around her belt, it kind of loops back up and just turns into her hair. The other thing that's kind of hard to see from this image, but her pupils are not quite the same. This one's a little bit bigger than this one. And when the artist was confronted, or the artist of this image was confronted about it, he deleted his social media. So it doesn't look great for him. So the way that these images are generated is that they train off of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of images, and then they take the patterns that they learn from these images and use it to generate other ones. And the reason that is a problem for a lot of people is because these images that they are training off of are not really given with consent. They're just, you just look up an image online and the machine pulls it without getting permission from the artist. So there's a social media website called Tumblr, and it just recently implemented a feature where all the images posted to this will be sent to help train more of these types of models. And so many of the artists on that website were infuriated. You have to like check something to you say, I do not want my art, to be scraped for this. But that's something that you have to check out of. You have to opt out of it because you're instantly opted in. So that caused a lot of people some grief. A lot of artists and creatives are afraid of losing their jobs to AI because this probably took like a second to generate. He typed in the sentence, he probably typed in something like comic book style image of a woman with blonde hair and a cape, and it spat this out, and it was just done in a minute. And then he got money for it. And so people who spend lots of time and effort creating images are obviously afraid that they will be replaced by AI, which leads me to my next point. How many of you guys remember the Writers Guild of America strike from last year? Mm-hmm. How many of your favorite shows got kind of, if you watch The Mandalorian or Law and Order or Andor, like all of that got impacted by this strike. So there was a lot of different things that went into this strike that caused it to happen, but one of the big issues was the use of AI in writing scripts. The writers were not happy because the executives wanted them to use AI to just generate these scripts, make it fast, make it quick, and they were not having that at all. Human writers only, says this man. It went on from May to September of 2023, a lot of back and forth arguing, and eventually they came up with a resolution. And this was the minimum basic agreement that they came up with. And in essence, it says that artificial intelligence cannot be considered a writer, and that the writers can't be forced to use AI. They also, it must be disclosed to the writers if the material that they have been given was AI generated, and they can't use the writer's material to further train more AI models. Another genuine problem that AI causes, or is an effect of using AI, is bias. And as I said, by and large, AI models are trained using data. And bias gets in the data unconsciously. So if you look up an image on Google right now and just type in like beautiful skin, most of the time you're going to see a person who looks like that. And so if you want to create an AI that generates pictures of people with beautiful skin, it's mostly going to make pictures like that. What about people with different skin colors? They just aren't included because there isn't a lot of data with other people of different skin colors. So I have in the past used image generators because they are fun to use, I will admit. I haven't spread misinformation with them, and I haven't put anyone out of a job with them, so. AI has a tendency, or like these image generators tend to like make very pretty images, and so I wanted to test it to see, like, I typed in like the most ugly, horrible, wretched-looking person that you could imagine, and all it did was come up with a fairly average-looking, middle-aged woman. And so obviously, the AI is associating ugly, hideous, decrepit with old age. And this is a very harmful bias that we do not want. And you can easily see how other horrible biases like that could, emerge. Imagine if you typed in like criminal, and you can imagine the types of people like it would generate for you. It reinforces stereotypes that we are trying very hard to break. But the silver lining for this is that these types of AIs and programs force us to confront these biases that we didn't even know existed. We're like, we finally see that these machines are just spitting out what we're putting into it. And we realize, oh, this is what we've been putting into it. And it really has opened up more conversations about bias in data. And more people are realizing we need better data if we're going to keep doing stuff like this. So I will not lie to you guys, and I don't do this to scare you. AI is an incredibly powerful tool. I mean, I hardly need to say that. It will change the way we live. But here's the thing, so did showers. So did washing machines and refrigerators. Those fundamentally altered the way that people live their lives day to day because there's suddenly something they don't have to do and spend a ton of time on. I want you guys to be smart and informed. Do not to be irrational. Malevolent parties can and will use the fear of the unknown to manipulate people to agree with them. Do not be anyone's sucker. We have a unique position right now to have an influence on how AI will be used. If you see AI being used for harm, you have the power and ability to say, I don't support that, I will not support it. You can refuse to participate. Just like the WGA people did, they striked for months and months and said, we will not have it, we will not accept AI being used for this. We will use it in other places, but we will not use it to generate scripts for us. And so because it's emerging, we have the ability, and I would dare say the responsibility, to say what we will and will not permit AI to do for us. That's all I have.
And Connor and Cynthia will be happy to take any questions you may have.
Oh, you can go first, sir.
We've seen all these ads. They talk about AI almost in the abstract. I mean, I'm curious, how do you get it into the system? And how does it work?
Okay.
You don't ever hear anything about how it works to get that result.
Do you want to take our AI classes? We can tell you all about it.
That's what I have to do.
So in reality, all AI is your computer doing math really fast. When you break it down, it's just math really, really fast to the point where it seems smart. Do you want to go more into like the calculus?
It really depends. There's many different types of AI. The general process is you train a model with data, general process of machine learning, and it's modeling some kind of mathematical function. So it's mapping the inputs to some output that we want to predict. In case of like generative AI, where it generates images and things like that, it actually its output is the generated image, and there's actually two models. One of the networks tries to fool the other one by producing realistic images, and the other one tries to predict which images are fake or not. And it's a complex mathematical process, but essentially you're tuning weights of this network so that it models the math behind predicting some kind of output, like is an image a dog or not, based on the input, which is the pixels.
But what does the human being sitting at that typewriter or the computer actually put into the system? What do they type?
So it depends on what we want. For an image generator, you would go to like the image generator's website, like Midjourney. You could go to like the Midjourney website, and there's a thing. It asks you to enter the prompt, and you would just type in the sentence that you want, and it would generate it for you.
Can you give us a demonstration?
Try and see.
We probably have to make an account
Yeah, while Connor's doing that,
Yeah, Cynthia, I think they want to know, like, who puts the AI, who,
How did the image of the kayak get in there?
right, like, who writes the AI?
Is
or
it
who-
just spreadsheets of data, like straight up data, or is it hundreds of images that are uploaded through it? How did it know when you typed in kayak to produce a kayak and not a sailboat?
okay. Is that what you were asking, sir?
You know, I mean,
Is it like
I use a computer, but I don't get that kind of result. What do you have to type in to get a result that you're looking for?
Okay, so those are two separate questions.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a basic question. If I Google something, a question, is Google using AI to answer? Or is...
Yes, in some instances, yes. First and foremost, Google is using artificial intelligence to populate the list of results that come back. It's using artificial intelligence to determine this is the most likely thing that they are searching for, so we're going to show this to them first. I know, for instance, Bing, I don't know if anyone uses Bing, but yeah.
It says ask Bing.
That,
When I ask the question, the answer comes up immediately.
yes, and it will use AI to generate like a sentence, an answer to your question. So, yes.
That's a sentence.
Yes.
But where does it get the images?
The images, so for this one, we used a ton of images to train it. And so this one will produce images when we ask it for it. Other ones, we train it on bunches of sentences. And so when we ask it for a sentence, it'll give it a sentence. There's lots of different, think of it as different programs. Like this AI, its program is to generate this. And this AI, its program is to generate sentences. And this AI, its job is to generate the most efficient wind turbine, because those exist as well. Yes, it's individual AIs doing different things. I hope that answers your question.
So are you saying that, like you said, Connor said, there's no general AI yet,
Yes.
but that AI might be integrated into Google, and then specifically for Midjourney, what you're showing right now is an AI program to generate those images.
Correct.
That any of us could access.
Yes.
Okay.
Connor and Cindy, I want to say thank you for talking, because in the English department, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and I was like, if only we had some AI experts on campus who know a lot about this. So we're going to be following up with you. We have the same values, right? We want ethical use of AI. But I was really interested, Cynthia, in your summary of what you see as the major ethical issues, and I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that the AIs are trained on data that they don't have legal rights to, because that is something that it's infuriating, actually. So I'm interested in what your call for regulation and how realistic you think that is, because I'm thinking of whenever someone from big tech goes to Washington to testify, they try to explain what they do and the people do not get it. Like, I'm thinking of like when Mark Zuckerberg went and was trying to explain that Facebook makes its money off of advertising, and they were like, but how, And so a lot of our lawmakers don't understand the concepts so I feel a little frustrated about how regulation will go, because there's just such a struggle. So how realistic do you think regulation is in our country, at least?
I can just say I'm glad I'm not a lawmaker, that I don't have to be the one who does this, but with any new technology, the technology comes first and the rules come after we see what it can do. I'm not like a politician. I'm not a lawmaker or anything, but I would foresee incremental changes. It's like, okay, we see that this is a problem, let's kind of make a rule to kind of hem that in, and then it creates another problem, so we got to make another rule for that. I don't know how, as far as like intellectual property is concerned, how that will go, because so many of these, they're already trained. These models are already trained. There's no going back and untraining these models on all the data that they were trained on. I wish I had a better answer for you as to how that will go.
So a few examples I can think of is like OpenAI basically used the whole internet. And they're like, oh, that's all ours. We're going to use all this to train our toys. And then Sora recently, which is the text to video one, I was listening to an interview with the CTO, and the reporter was like, where did you get the stuff to train this? And she was like, if it was there, we used it. You know? So that's just really frustrating to me. I will say though that Midjourney put a ban on using images of Trump or Biden, which I hope more of the independent companies decide to do in the effort of public good, is that you cannot use those kinds of things. So I like those restrictions.
These are all.
Sora.
Now, isn't there a committee with the experts on AI trying to get some rules or some standards in place? All what I can think of is a guy's name starts with S. There's a panel that has been talked about for an AI committee that is meeting with politicians and that are trying to establish some protocol.
There definitely is some form of committee. I'm not super familiar with it, but there are definitely lots of regulations that need to be put in place pretty soon. For instance, deep faked images maybe should be stamped with some kind of indicator that they're not real. The data that's being used should definitely be limited in some way, so people's copyrights are not infringed. And
I can't remember the specifics on what they put in place, but I do know that the EU has like already made some standards and like rules regarding generative AI. I can't remember off the top of my head what they said is and is not allowed, but you know, the EU's on top of it.
Now, are you talking, what is it?
European Union.
Okay, that's what I thought. Oh, I wasn't sure.
How does AI in the United States stand up against AI that's going on all over the world? You know, especially, you know, we're at war, and how is this going to be regulated? Or you know, it's a scary thought that you know, I don't know how we're going to regulate you know, a foreign adversary with using something that we say, well, we don't want to do it this way, but they say, yeah, but we will. You know, so what's happening around the world in AI as far as you see it?
How many companies are US based? Like, isn't
OpenAI, DeepMind is with Google. The U.S. is definitely well ahead. But you know, if we stop, other companies or other countries are definitely not going to stop.
any major US tech company, it has its hand in AI. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, they all have their hands in AI. If it's a US tech company, they have dealings with AI. It's just, at this point, it's a given.
In the military, they're using AI already.
Absolutely, yes.
US military.
It seems like we may be ahead in research, but not necessarily in the guard rules or the ethics of it, or at least I'm not aware if there is, you know, you mentioned the committee, but I don't know whether there's anybody, any of our lawmakers who are actively involved in trying to address the challenges.
Yeah, we're definitely behind in the regulation needs. I'm surprised there hasn't been some sort of international committee to limit the development of autonomous weapons. I'm really surprised that hasn't come around yet.
In true American fashion, we have gone cowboy and just, it's the wild, AI really is the Wild West. You know, we haven't put up the barbed wire yet.
Yeah.
I think when we see bigger issues with it, deep fakes, when politicians become deep faked more and it becomes more and more hard to determine what's real and disinformation becomes more prevalent, I think regulatory agencies will be much more likely to put a lot more effort into.
As a consumer of news, I don't know how to mentally prepare, or I don't know, especially like, for example, with this election coming up. It's going to be really tricky. And we've already, 3 weeks ago, there was kind of a thing done of one candidate. And I think it was accurate, but the candidate said, oh, that's AI. So even when a candidate is not a victim of AI, but is caught saying something or doing something, they always have the excuse, oh, that wasn't me. That was AI. And so we consumers are just left, you got all kinds of stuff going on. We denied it, people creating it, and then I don't know how we handle that disinformation. And that's already here. Like 3 weeks ago, I saw that, and so I had no idea who was telling the truth.
It is concerning. You are right to be concerned.
So what do you do?
Well, what did we do when Photoshop was invented? What did we do when editing film from like a camera was invented? There's eventually, and I don't have the answer right now, but eventually there are ways to tell. There's ways to find proof and things like that. Because, when Photoshop came out, and people got proficient in Photoshop, it was very easy to make convincing fake images. It's not as if this is unprecedented. It's just, it is a lot easier for it to be done quickly now. But it isn't as if this is the complete Wild West. Just
close to it.
Just close.
I think
You look at the Kate Middleton photo, within less than hours of it coming out, people identified it was Photoshopped.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she did it just to make it look a little bit better before it went out to the public, but she was critically, scrutinized for Photoshopping.
Yay, so who called her?
Most of the internet.
Do we need to hire somebody to just, is their job to constantly be paying attention to what's going on so that they can, is there somebody that's a fact finder that you can have?
She didn't do it for malicious reasons. She did it just to make the photo look a little bit better, but because it was, and it is in this time and age, she has been highly criticized for.
Was it a reporter? Was it a reporter?
I don't know. I didn't dig into it.
You mentioned having like a trusted fact finder. I would implore you to become your own fact finder and don't necessarily rely on other people to tell you that this is right or this is wrong, because that is when the bad actors can most take advantage of you. Because if they have all these people trusting them and believing whatever they say, they can push their agenda. So that's one of the things that I was really hoping to drive home in this is we have to become informed. Unfortunately, we can't really rely on someone else to do this for us. It's a task, but it's one that is beneficial for us, to be informed.
There's a lot of research also going into deepfake detection, machine learning networks that instead of producing the deepfakes, they detect them.
Yes, so AI is being used to combat AI. That comic book image that I showed you guys, one of the ways, it was another way that it was kind of given proof that it was probably AI generated was people ran it through like a detector and it came out with 90% positive that it was AI generated. So, AI is helping us detect other AI.
Is the AI detection for images better than for text? Because I know there was the whole deflating realization that AI text detection was not so reliable. But is it better for images?
It depends on which detector is being used.
Any good ones you can recommend?
Not off the top of my head. I rely on Turnitin's whatever detection it's doing. That's what I'm relying on at this point.
We don't have access to that anymore.
Oh, darn.
It was a trial access.
Yeah, expensive.
Another question is about the Microsoft licensing stuff, which I'm sure you read the details, right? And you click yes, but you mentioned that all the tech companies have stock in AI, and I know that Microsoft is one of the largest investors in OpenAI. So if we're using Microsoft, are we training OpenAI?
Probably.
Fine print, they.
Well, that leaves us with a need for a neutral word processing program, and you could imagine creative people and academics need that tool.
And the idea that you said earlier, we are really being asked to opt in without consenting, right? If you have to opt out, that's not really consent.
Maybe we'll get residuals.
I'm back to typing. So I'm going to type a sentence into my computer, and it's going to say, develop for me a cure for melanoma cancer. Will it?
No.
Why not?
If you go to ChatGPT,
What have I got to type in?
if you went to ChatGPT and just typed in, generate me the cure to melanoma cancer, what it would come up with, it would generate something, but it wouldn't be the cure. Because what this is doing, it only generates things based off what it knows.
But it knows the whole universe, practically.
It doesn't. It doesn't actually. AI isn't, it's only as smart as we make it. And so if we don't give it,
If we don't know the cure for cancer,
Yes.
it can't.
These machines are not smarter than us. They are just extremely good at picking up patterns. That's all it is. It's just pattern detection.
So it has the whole universe of all the research that has been done.
You can see up here, I've typed that in. I asked ChatGPT here to give me the cure for melanoma cancer, and it's saying that there isn't one. So this is trained on the whole internet, and there's not a cure for melanoma on the internet. So when we ask it, it can give us the best treatments that have been discovered, but there's not a singular cure really.
So it's truthful if you don't get misinformation.
Sometimes it does give you misinformation, not on purpose.
Misinformation's out there.
If misinformation is out there.
And sometimes, it's a statistical process, so sometimes there's just a small chance it's called hallucinating, and it provides you with things that is generated but are not necessarily based on fact. It's predicting what is the best thing it should say based on all the, most probabilistically, the best thing it should say based on everything it's read essentially on the internet.
Can it access databases that are paid for, our library, and get into that research, or is that blocked?
So the company that made this, whatever data it had access to, that's what it gave it. So obviously, if some medical research company has all their data and files locked up, they can't train it on it because they don't have access to it. It's only the data that they can get their hands on that they can train it on.
I believe, though, that when people were talking to ChatGPT, they were, providing some kind of confidential information from their organization or whatever. But when they, entered that into ChatGPT, then it became trained on that data, giving it kind of access that way.
I've got to ask you a question. I saw something the other day that resonated with me very well. Said, do you want me to answer it like a fifth grader or what have you, PhD? I'm a fifth grader. It seems to me, you said it's not smarter than we are, but yet we're trying to make it smarter than we are. I see a big problem of eliminating a lot of positions and jobs with AI in the future. It would be unlimited as to who would you need to be a chauffeur for a car if you've got a car that can drive itself? Or who would you need to run the university if you've got? That's serious, what I'm saying. I see it,
AI is not clever.
The scary thing I see is the elimination of a lot of opportunities, jobs that people will not have because they will be eliminated.
And that is a legitimate concern that a lot of people have, is so many jobs will just be outmoded by AI. We won't necessarily need humans to do them anymore. Why hire taxi drivers if the cars are driving themselves? And this goes back to what I was saying, how it will change our lives. There used to be jobs where your whole job was to wash the village's clothes, and you were the washerwoman, and you went to the well and you scrubbed the clothes, and that was your job. But now washing machines came around, and suddenly this job doesn't exist anymore. Well, I don't think those peasant women are necessarily sad that washing machines exist now. Humans find ways to occupy themselves. But the other thing, and this is like kind of far out there, because it's going to be such a massive change, there's thoughts of like, you know, the, what is that? Universal standard income. So, you know, this is just like how much money people get. Yeah, for existing. And the other thing is like, well, if we have all this capability to take care of all these people, why, and it's so cheap and easy and free, why even bother making them pay for it? You know, it's a lot of, it leads in, the use of AI leads to lots of other ethical considerations of like, how are we going to change the way we live and view the scarcity of resources when there's no scarcity anymore? That's a whole other like panel that we could give.
There's also a lot of jobs that we can't imagine that don't yet exist that are going to emerge because of AI, which again is behind the need for us to continually upskill people and.
Why we need more community colleges.
Exactly.
And retrainers.
Right. Exactly.
No, their current job may not exist, but we'll find them a new one.
I'll add one thing. I had the opportunity to hear a young man named Stephen King. He is an assistant professor at UNC Chapel Hill in the Emerging Technology Center. And he shared with the presidents at the president superintendent meeting that even at Chapel Hill, in 75 to 80% of the cases, they can't detect where ChatGPT has been used in student work. He said it's going to be more important that we teach the ethical use of it and to know where our students are in there. So if you know that the assignment's due tomorrow and you haven't been working with them up to that point to know that they haven't done anything, they're probably going to use ChatGPT because they need, and I'm sure it will be substantial. But he also said we may have to think of other ways to test our students. Right. Go back to oral comps and those things that prompt that human to think. Because he did say AI is not clever and humans are. So we may have to think about other ways to assess our students to understand that they have got the content. So.
Definitely. For English classes, for instance, instead of having the students go home and write their essays, they might write them in class.
Need to write in class.
And which will require more English teachers.
Is AI, I mean, it sounds like it's mostly visual, or images and written. What about actual like music and creating sculptures, light sculptures? Is it into that?
Music is there are definitely music generation. This is all a class of generative AI. There's definitely music generators, really powerful. I've never actually heard of a sculpture generator, but I would not be
As for
surprised.
like example, someone who scores movies for a career, they could actually be out of a job in the future by using AI for scoring films and whatever.
True.
I want to piggyback off of that because this is like the mantra that's been in my head. I heard someone say it online, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And it feeds back to what I was saying. We are in the unique position to refuse to participate if we see AI being used for something we don't like. So say a movie did come out and it said, the world's first fully AI scored movie. You can just refuse to go see it. Say, I don't want to listen to that. What the person online said was, if no one bothered to write it, why should I bother to read it? So you don't have to participate in things that like proudly proclaim written by AI. You just say, nope, vote with your money, you know?
If you know it.
Yes.
I was at a conference recently and someone said that we are going to evolve into a society of less writing and more editing. They used several words to compare how the difference is going to be. So I do think that ethical point is going to be a big part of moving forward. And another quote from that conference that I thought was very interesting, thinking about the future landscape of AI. A person is not going to be replaced by AI or a robot, but someone that is equipped with the skills to know how to use AI is going to potentially replace that person. So it's something that we are doing our best at the forefront here at Wayne Community across majors, is to teach our students how to ethically use AI so they'll be prepared for this evolving workplace.
Thank you so much, Connor and Cynthia. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.